Okay, welcome to this week's Ask the Expert webinar from First Canada. You will notice that it is not Sean Lim who's speaking. Sean Lim missed the snow yesterday and today because, well, I hope he missed it because he's in Australia at a conference. And so this is Paul Keenan subbing in for him. And today we have a few guests that are going to talk about Kickoff and Quickbuild. And we're going to take a quick look at some of these things, and hopefully we'll get a lot of people with questions that we can answer. And again, this will be posted on the First Canada YouTube page, so you can see it there after the fact if you miss it today. So this is the kickoff for First ThemeWorks in Canada, but it's the same date all around the world. And we're going to talk a little bit about where the kickoffs are, what is a kickoff, when they take place, and some of the other details. And to help us do this, we have three people from First Robotics Canada and the University of Western Ontario. So we have Christine Bibic, who is not doing this right now. She's actually on her, this was taken, I guess, at Cinex in Mississauga, but she's going to be talking to us from Kingston, who works for First Canada. She's the first Lego League Junior partner, and she is the queen of the waffles, so she'll give us some information about different things today. We have John Hobbins, Regional Director for FRC in Ontario, and also with us, but I don't have a picture, we have Eugen Porter, who's doing the Western Kickoff and is involved with teams in that part of the province. So, actually, you know what, I'm going to go back. Christine, let's start with you. You have some information about being at the kickoff and what should take place and what teams should be remembering to bring.
So I'm going to speak primarily from the perspective of the kickoff event that's going to be happening at Crescent School this year. But a lot of this information will apply to the other two kickoffs that are happening in different locations across Ontario as well. So for our particular kickoff, at Crescent, the address will be mailed to you.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Sorry, I had a little glitch there, Christine.
That's okay, I'll just keep going. So the address for that, I'll just throw it out there, is 2365 Bayview Avenue in Toronto. A lot of you have been there before, so I think you'll be familiar with it. When you arrive, we're going to ask you to park in the upper parking lot, for those of you that are more familiar with the venue. So that's the main parking lot that you're going to see when you drive in. It's sort of to the right-hand side.
There we go. So that's the parking lot that's right here.
That's right. And parking is limited, so if at all possible, we do encourage you to carpool, but keep in mind you'll need to still have room for your totes to take those back with you, so don't fill up too much with people, otherwise you won't have room to bring home your robotics stuff. Anyway, moving on, so we're going to have the doors open this year at 9 o'clock. It's a little later than we're used to at the Science Center because we don't have to worry about getting in before the free parking ends, so we can sleep a little bit longer, so 9 a.m. And we're going, up until now we've been telling you that we're going to be limiting to 2 people per team, 2 team representatives. But going over the numbers today, I think we're going to be able to say 2 to 3 people, so if you'd like to bring a third person, feel welcome. And but just no one beyond 3 people per team. Let's see, what else do I have to tell you? Yeah, and that's mostly because we're going to have 93 teams coming through and picking up their kits at this location this year, so that's quite a few. So we want to sort of keep things smooth, and we do have a limited number of seats in the auditorium that are available, so we want to keep to that. That, however, doesn't include those of you that are planning on attending the quick build as well. You're allowed a few extra people, but they will not have seats in the auditorium. But John will speak to that coming up. So then basically what's going to happen from that point, I guess we're going to do things a little bit differently this year, not only because of a different venue, but we've got some new and exciting things up our sleeve, I think. So from 9:30 till approximately 10:30, we're going to have some presentations from First Canada. That's similar to what we've done in the past, but we're hoping this year to be able to broadcast that to a wider audience, sort of live stream. So we're going to see if we can do that, so no guarantees on that one, but that's our hope. And as part of our usual kickoff event, we usually have our trivia contest, so we can give out some great swag, and we're doing that again this year, but we're changing it up with a bit of a new format that some of our alumni are helping with, and we're kind of excited about that, and some of the exciting swag that we have too. So don't miss out on that. Then I guess somewhere between 10 and 10:30, the broadcast from the main broadcast will start, so we'll switch over to that at that point, and we'll watch that until the very end, at which time we're going to start distributing kits. Kits are going to be distributed a little bit differently this year. We have 2 separate locations in the school that we're going to be distributing kits for. Those that are attending Quickbuild or who are rookie teams are going to be receiving theirs down in the field house where they will be working. And the rest of you will be receiving your kit in an area nearby the theater. So when you come out, you'll be directed where to go. We're also going to do something a little bit different this year as well because of the volume of teams that we have. Instead of having sort of each team's kits piled up and labeled individually, we're going to sort of have more of a personal shopping experience this year. So you're going to be teamed up with a volunteer, and one of your team representatives will basically go through this line with your shopping escort, and they will load up onto your cart all the things that you require. So it's sort of going to be a sort of stopping along at different stations and picking up the various things. So you're going to be entering in one door and you're going to be exiting out another door. And maybe we could actually take a moment to show that, Paul, just where they'll be exiting so that they know where their counterparts can be to help them get their kits out to their vehicles.
So can you see my cursor, Christine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we're going to be entering in this side of the building, so up the ramp and inside, and this is where the theater is. And then when you exit the building, you'll actually be coming out this little drive to the side here. So your other teammates can meet you outside at that point and help you get your kits to the car. Our plan right now is to have carts that we can use while inside the building, but as soon as you get to the door, you're going to have to remove anything from those carts, either onto your own cart or you're going to have to carry it by hand. We do recommend that you bring along a cart of your own so you can do that, because it is a bit of a trek up to the vehicles in the parking lot. And we can't really clog up with vehicles pulling up too close there, because we have to keep those lanes open so that we can keep traffic flowing. So anyway, that's how that part of things is going to, part of the day is going to work. I also wanted to remind you that if you are picking up for another team, you must have a copy of their surrogate letter with you, and that should be also emailed or faxed ahead of time to First Headquarters in the U.S. It doesn't come to us here at First Canada, although you're welcome to send us a copy. But it's really important that it goes to the U.S. And if you want to show, do you have a copy of that form, Paul, that you can show?
I have the link here to the surrogate form, and
okay.
I've put it there's in the handout. Right. So those of you that you should all be able to see where the handouts are, so you can download. There's 2 things there: a tool list that John's going to talk about later on, and the surrogate pickup letter, and it's very brief, so you can download that. For those of you that,
and right at the top it has where you're supposed to send.
That's right.
So send it to that address.
So for those of you that didn't hear, because the sound I don't think was working right at the beginning, which was entirely my own fault, you're listening to Christine Bibic, live and in person from Kingston, Ontario. And we also have on the call with us today Regional Director John Hobbins and Eugen Porter, who's running the Kickoff event at the University of Western Ontario in London.
Okay, so just continuing on, a few other reminders. In addition to bringing a cart, which you hopefully will, you need to bring a copy of your team roster, and you're going to print that out from Tim's, or your desktop, or what do you call it? Dashboard rather. And that a copy of that needs to be handed in when you arrive at kickoff. Okay. And there'll be a check-in desk there for you to do that. Moving on, I guess. Let's see, what else haven't I touched on? Oh, right immediately following the kickoff broadcast, we have a special treat. We have a few guest experts lined up that are going to sort of do basically a live webinar in the auditorium with an audience, and they're going to be focusing on their initial reactions to the game and, you know, initial thoughts on strategy and that kind of thing. So I think we're pretty excited about that, and it should hopefully give people who are sort of waiting for their turn to pick up their kits some great information and an opportunity to learn some really interesting things from these special guests while they're waiting. So we're pretty pleased that that's going to be happening as well. Boy, my words are just not coming out easily for me today. Anyway, I think that's the main part of what I have, Paul. So I'm sure Eugene might have some different things that he's doing at Western with his event, but that's what's basically happening at Crescent.
And so maybe now, Eugene, you can talk about that.
Okay, yeah. So at Western, for parking-wise, the Springett parking lot is probably the best parking lot to be in. It's the easiest one to get to. Both the Western Film is where we're actually having the actual kickoff live broadcast. That's in UCC building, room 290. And then from after that point, we're going to split the people or the teams up into either Quickbuild or people who are leaving to go back to their schools. The people who are leaving, they will head straight out back to the same parking lot that you came in, and we'll be distributing the kits from the parking lot, most likely on a furthest to travel basis. So whoever's got to go the farthest will get their kits first, and we'll go through it that way. Everybody else will head over to the green building, the Claudette McKay Lizon Pavilion, and into the atrium there, and we will start setting up for quick build and the stuff that we do there. Timing wise, our tentative schedule right now, everybody shows up around 9:30 for registration, then 10:15 to 10:30 is a welcome, then we do the live broadcast, and then we will do the split up to see who goes to get their kits and who goes to the quick build area. As for a number of people, I have been informing the teams how many people they can bring. Ours vary from different teams are bringing more people than other teams. But for the quick build, we have our things split up into mechanical, electrical, programming, and also strategy. So in the mechanical section, we have a minimum of 4 students allowed, or a maximum of 4 students allowed, sorry. Electrical is 2 students, programming is 2 students, 1 mentor for each of those divisions, and then if you have any other students that are left over and they don't want to leave right away, they want to continue doing stuff, we have a strategy workshop that's going on. That's pretty much the way we're flowing for the day. Hello?
John, do you want to talk about our quick build at Crescent?
We do have.
I sure can.
We do have a question. Sorry, we have a question for Eugene from Laurie Bunch. How many people per team can attend the strategy session, the strategy workshop?
We haven't set the numbers yet because we have to figure out which room we're actually going to do it in. But that we'll have to put out. I'll have to figure out which room I actually have booked for that venue, and see how many students we can fit in there.
Okay.
I'll probably put out a poll to see how many people want to attend and how many students who actually want to do the strategy.
All right, that sounds good. Mr. Hobbins, Quickbuild.
Well, thank you, Mr. Keenan, and thank you to Christine Bibic and Eugene for informing us about the Kickoff and the Quickbuild at Western. My goal is to chat with everyone about the Quickbuild at the Crescent School for Boys on Bayview, as Christine alluded to. I would like to start off by saying that you may have two questions in the back of your minds right now, and I'm going to answer those two questions. Number one, Christine, myself, or anybody else at First Canada absolutely do not have any indication what the game is about, so you can put that to rest. And secondly, when we announced that there would be an expert panel and the idea of a Canadian content webcast at the beginning, roughly between 9:30 and 10:30, I need to also make sure that you understand that that is not when Paul Keenan is going to be doing his entertainment. Now, on to the
I keep muting myself because I'm coughing because I have a bit of a cough, but now I'm not going to do that so I can respond to those kind of remarks when they come up. But go ahead, Mr. Hobbins.
Thank you, Mr. Keenan. It's very important for everyone to understand the value of going to the Quickbuild, and I know the hard work that Western, Windsor, and Crescent School has put into making sure that these Quickbuilds are very valuable for the first community. It's been said that often it's as though that the teams get a 1 to 2 week head start on the build season out of those 6 weeks that we have in total. So if you can just equate that to the proportional benefit of these Quickbuilds, very, very important. I'm just going to go down my list. As far as the Quickbuild goes at Crescent, we've set a limit for 6 people, and that would include at least 1 adult. It's very important that you understand that 1 or more must be an adult. And those that are going to the Quickbuild at Crescent could actually attend the kickoff release video from NASA by spending all of their time down in the field house where, Paul, if you could just direct us to that road down to the field house, where they would park, how they would make their way down to that field house.
Right. So
they're still going to be parking in the upper lot.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is the upper lot, and this is the road that leads you down to the field house, but no one's going to be parking down there. So to get walking down to the field house, you would park, you would go the same direction as Christine was saying about going to the theater. There's a pathway that goes along this building here, and then some stairs that lead down to the field house, and that's the big, mainly white but with green edges on it, field house down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen.
And in that field house, there is 1 classroom and then a large open field, much like what you would consider a 3-fold gymnasium. The actual classroom will house the kits for the rookie teams, where if the rookies are down there watching the broadcast, they would immediately have access to the rookie kits right after the broadcast, which would be somewhere around 12 noon or 12:15, we're hoping. Now, it's also important to know that if you were interested in the expert panel, that you could actually send a few people upstairs to the theater so that you could participate in that expert panel with everyone up there. Our goal is to keep everyone held hostage in that field house so no one leaves. And what happens sometimes is our kids get hungry and people run out and let the kids take off and go get lunch. You don't need to do that because we're going to do a lunch and learn. We're going to actually feed you. And the change from previous years was that we used to feed you at dinner time. We're actually going to feed you at lunchtime, somewhere probably between 1 and 2:30, while we're actually working away in that field house. What's important about the field house, it's broke up into areas much like Eugene had expressed about Western, where we're going to have a programming area which is going to be heavily focused on Java. I want to repeat that, heavily focused on Java, with minimal to no support on C++ or LabVIEW or any other programming language. If you have a specific request, please do email me and let me know, and then we'll see what we could do in terms of providing supports for that. Beyond the programming area, and you should know that one of our most successful teams in the history of Canadian FRC is Team 1114, and 1114 is going to host the programming segment of the Quick Build. We'll also have a mechanical area where you're going to obviously assemble components of the robot, and the electrical areas also. We will allow some veterans to attend our Quick Build. It's going to be minimal because, of course, our focus is going to be on the rookies, but we're obviously open to helping anyone. Paul, if you could call up that tool list, that would be terrific. And while he's doing that, a reminder about safety glasses. People need to bring their own safety glasses. We don't have that type of stuff to give out to people. And Paul, I'm wondering if you could zoom in somewhat.
So this is the list, but the list is actually also a handout in the handouts folder on the right-hand side of your screen. So at the bottom, where it has the list of attendees and so forth, it's also there. But let's see. There we go. And I'll just.
That's okay, Paul. And as Paul said, they are in the handouts for you. What's important to know that all the stuff on this list has been vetted as usable tools that you're going to need throughout the season. So none of them will be redundant or things that you're not going to use down the road. It's a very explicit list of tools. Let me see. The other piece that I wanted to mention, the goal of the Quick Build is that teams will come together, work with experts. Each area that Eugene and I have listed as programming, mechanical, electrical, and others will all be led by experts, and they will have assistants with them to work with each individual team. At the end of the day, the hope is that between roughly, say, 12:30 till 5 p.m., teams will be able to leave and actually have a running robot chassis with them. And when you think about the benefits of that, the whole idea that you could be back at your school on Monday morning with a robot that's running around, your programmers can practice developing additional code in addition to autonomous coding, where they will understand the different challenges that NASA puts out in the actual challenge. So Paul, that's pretty much it for me. More or less, if anybody has any questions, please do not hesitate to email me or George Chisholm at georgechisholm@firstroboticscanada.org.
The only thing I'd add with mine is the fact that we're open up to both rookie and veterans. We're not distinguishing between them. We will probably be focusing both on Java and C in our programming, so it depends on which one you want to do. And what was the other thing I saw that was slightly different than yours? Oh, ours will be probably, we usually wrap up around 8, 9 o'clock at night. So ours goes from the 12 to about 9 o'clock at night.
And John, what time are you expecting people to be finished at Crescent?
Well, at Crescent, we used to have people running between 6 to 8 p.m. at nighttime. But our goal, because we're doing the actual kickoff in the field house, we're hoping to get right on task as soon as that release video is over, get those kits out, do the inventory. That's so important, everyone. It's very important for you to know that if there's any missing elements from that kit of parts, you have to declare that immediately within 2 to 3 days so that you can get replacement parts sent to you.
And you can go to the link that's listed here, so or you can just search it, 2016 kit of parts. You won't see the 2017 one, but you will see the 2016 one, and it'll show you what's in those parts. And it'll also provide you with information of who you have to contact if you are missing parts, and what the timeline is like for that. So you want to do that inventory for sure. Is that it, John? That's all you've got?
Yeah, that's it for me. And again, if there are any veteran teams out there that are listening and they really feel they could benefit from the Quick Build, you're strongly encouraged to let George or myself or Paul Keenan know, and we'll see if we can fit you in. But again, 6 people maximum per team.
So I guess the last thing I want to say to remind you before we take any questions that there may be is that the surrogate form is for if your team is not coming, or you're not having one of your mentors come to pick up your kit, and someone else is picking up the kit, you have to send the form, fill out the form, which is in the handouts, and you're welcome to just search. You can search for it by doing surrogate pickup letter in the First Inspires website. It has to go to First, and it's listed on that sheet, and you have to bring it with a copy of it with you, the person that's picking up that kit. And as Christine mentioned, you sort of have to be picking them up where the kit is going to be. So if you're not at all sure about that, you want to make sure to check on that as soon as possible by contacting, as John said, either himself or myself or Christine, and we'll make sure that you know where that team is going to be.
And I just wanted to clarify too that it needs to be a mentor, like an adult, somebody over, you know, the age of, that's not a student, that's picking up and signing for the kits as they're picked up, okay? So so when you're sending somebody in Crescent in that lineup, make sure it's an adult so that they can actually sign for it at the end. So don't send a student in by themselves.
Mm-hmm. And the reason why there are people who are doing this is because they would probably, in the case of, for example, 4001, which they're going to send someone to pick up their kit, they're hosting a couple of other schools back at their school to do some planning and brainstorming and so forth as a way to help some rookie teams along. So our second year teams in this case. So keep that in mind, that you can watch all the things that John and Christine have been talking about, and Eugene, at your own school or somewhere else, and have someone pick up your kit for you and bring it back.
Right, and that link will be posted on the First website closer to the date so that you can watch it from home or your school or wherever. Something else I wanted to point out that you'll want to do ahead of time, I think regardless of whether you're going to a kickoff or not, is you'll want to download the encoded game manual. And so at broadcast they will show the key so that you can actually open it, but the website traditionally has been very busy, you know, even up to 24 hours later, so I think that's something that we want to encourage everybody to do, and if you haven't been to a kickoff or this is your first year, that's something you might miss, so I want to make sure that you know that that's something you'll definitely want to do ahead of time.
Did we mention when the surrogate form has to be in by? What's the last date?
I believe it's, well, let's see if we can take a
look at it. It is on the website on that form.
Yeah, but I believe, where is it here? By January the 4th, yeah. So it's on my screen right now. If you can see it, this is the form from the handouts, and it does explain it there by January the 4th.
And we are not allowed to release the kit to somebody that doesn't have a surrogate form if they're not from the team. And reminder as well that whoever's signing for their kit needs to bring identification.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, can I ask you if is this the last webinar prior to the Christmas break, or are there others? And if there are, what are the topics? And what if you could highlight the topic that immediately follows the kickoff, just so that the listeners have an idea of why that would be so important. And of course, the infamous Tuesday release of the robot in 3 days. I wonder if you could comment on that.
I can try. So here is the list of webinars. Let's go back to that. It's going to work with me here. Come on, work. There we go. Excuse me. So let's see. Okay, so this is, in fact, John, you are absolutely correct. This is the last webinar before January the 7th when we have our kickoff. So yes, that is true. However...
Okay, so I'm wondering if...
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm wondering, in addition to you seeking out the other information like tips and robot in 3 days, the audience has any specific questions about what's coming and what to expect down the road.
So here I have on YouTube Robot in 3 days. So those of you that may not know, the Robot in 3 days is groups, and there's more than one. There's actually more each year, groups of former firsters usually who are now actually working. They're like adults. in some way, shape, or form. But they still want to be involved, and they have they see the event just the same as you do, and they're trying to build a robot that will play the game within 3 days. There's there were, let me see now, there were a couple of Indiana, there were people down in Florida, I think, because when they were showing it, they were working out in their garage outside. There's a team that worked out of the University of Calgary last year, Team Tesla, I think they call themselves, and there's actually one working out of Quebec, and they call it, the translation is robot in 100 hours. And my understanding is they're still going, and so are some of the robot in 3 days ones. I've seen things posted in Facebook recently. So it's a great resource because it gives you some idea. They talk about it, they live stream, they record stuff, they go to all hours to give you an idea of some ideas. They prototype, and so it's really an interesting an adventure, and it gets a lot of viewership, that's for sure. Okay, so we do have a couple of questions, John.
And I have the information that John was looking for the teaser for what's happening on January 9th. It's a game release. It's a first look at the new game, Expert Strategy Breakdown and What to Buy.
Okay. And there's a question from Matt Alderson. He says, is there a schedule posted online for the webcast on January 7th? And when does the first broadcast begin? I have no idea about the answer to that question, Matt. I have not.
So, Matt,
there's no real schedule of the broadcast other than the start time, which I think they're actually broadcasting or saying that it starts at 10. But the first long chunk of it is, I don't know, how do you describe it? Background material.
yeah, the meat of it usually starts at around 10:20 to 10:30. And that's over in a relatively short period of time, about 15 minutes.
And then sometimes I think what happens is they'll show some of the other things, a tour of the field and so forth, but by that time most people at the kickoff are gone getting their kits. And it's the people back at the schools that seem to be watching those shows, those extra things about the field and game pieces and so forth. So hopefully that answers the question. And Matt says thanks. We have a question for you, Eugene, from Laurie. He says, will we get the kit at UCC or at engineering? And then will we take it to a car that can then drive to near the building?
Well, if you're sticking around for the quick build, it'll be at the engineering building. And then, yeah, when you're finished doing the quick build, you can bring your car around and pick it up from there. If you're leaving after the broadcast, then you'll be picking it up from the parking lot, the Springett parking lot, right after the broadcast.
So we have a good question here from Anthony. He says, what size vehicle would be appropriate for transporting the robot kit? I'm going to go back to this slide here.
You have a picture, right?
Well, the picture is...
So traditionally there's two totes. You can see the yellow one there. There's 2 totes that are that size for rookie teams, plus a few little extra boxes. And if you're a veteran team, it's just 1 tote that's that size.
Right, so you can see this particular year there was some aluminum tubing, and this is down at the bottom left, this black and red box is the chassis, the rookie chassis. And sometimes the game pieces can also be kind of large. So last year it wasn't too bad, but the year before it was a big, we would have called it a big green garbage can. The Americans were calling it a recycling bin. And you had to take that with you as well, so that was bigger. But we don't know what the game pieces are going to be, so it's hard to say. But this stuff easily fits in the back of my Toyota Matrix, so not too much more than that, really.
But if you are picking up surrogate kits, be sure you have enough space. Don't bring a little tiny hatchback and pick up 20 kits.
Plus, you'd have to be able to put something that, that a dolly or something that would take these out to wherever you are, because sometimes it's not all that close. You don't want to be carrying them, especially if we have winter at that time of the year and it's slippery. So there would have to be room in your car for that as well. John, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, whether it's at the Quickbuild, the Kickoff, or at one of the events, one of the biggest problems that we have is if someone, a driver of a vehicle, backs a vehicle up, leaves the vehicle unattended and goes inside the building. That definitely is not something that we want you to do. That causes a lot of disruption in terms of everyone else having to wait for that vehicle to be removed. So please bring your vehicles where you need to bring them. Send someone else in to get the equipment and bring it out, and then remove the vehicle. I'm not sure if I lost audio.
We're all still here, just quiet.
Yeah, so what I was going to say was also to make sure to bring something along like water, because it's going to be a long day. There will be some stuff there, but you want to make sure that you're well provided for. And it wouldn't help to remember to bring a first aid kit just in case. And don't forget the goggles. And I don't see any more questions. Well, of course, as soon as I say that, there is. If we stay till 9 p.m., what about dinner? And that's from Laurie going to Western. Eugene.
There's a bunch of places around Western where you can get dinner. Off to the Sarnia Road and Western Road, there's a pizza place, shawarma place, and a Subway. So there's a bit of food there if you want to. Usually some teams will, especially the veteran teams who have done builds with inside Western on weekends that they can't get into their school, they will stop for a meal break, all run down to the corner there and get a bunch of food, and then come back, eat, and continue on building.
Any other questions before we close it off for tonight? If you do have questions that occur to you after the webinar's over, again, please contact any one of us. We'd be happy to help you out. We do have a question, and that's, can you eat in the build areas? I think we have at Crescent, because that's where the food does show up. But at Western, Eugene?
Yeah, we usually have the food in one of the other rooms when we do it. If it's later to the 9 o'clock period, yeah, we'll have a spot within the build area, most likely, that you'll be able to grab something to sit down and eat. Just down the hall as well is one of our cafeterias, so there's lots of places that you can find to eat.
And if there are no other questions, I'd like to say thank you once again to Eugen Porter from Western Ontario, Christine Bibic from the Waffles in Kingston, and John Hobbins from out in Mississauga for joining us tonight. And I hope Sean is having a great time in Australia, where he's giving a talk at some conferences for FIRST. And that, well, really, I hope it snowed like crazy out there for him too, but probably not. Anyways, all of this will be posted on the FIRST Canada YouTube channel, and as we heard as well, there will be the next webinar, Ask the Expert, on a Monday night, will be on January the 9th, but there will be some live streaming coming from a panelist show on January the 7th at the Kickoff at Crescent School. So if there's no other questions, I'd like to say good night, and hopefully we'll see all of you at one of those kickoffs. Good night.
Thank you.